Colorado has one of the best transfer portal classes in all of college football, but even though it's one of the better ones, people are still overlooking these four players, starting with Baby T.O. himself.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borber. Today's episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. So make sure to like, subscribe, follow, give me those 5 stars. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. We're talking about guys in Colorado's transfer portal class that can go from relatively unknown around the country to a key contributor for the Buffs and maybe even a star. And the one that stands out the most to me right now, and I'm going to give you 4 of them. So buckle up. But the one that stands out the most to me right now has got to be Cordell Russell, the wide receiver from TCU transfer, He was, as a recruit, ranked as the number 65th player in the country, and is ginormous. 6'4", 6'5", and he already has, which I mean, a lot of the receivers have been in Dallas or Texas, wherever they are, working with Shador, and he has already wowed people with just how big he is. He's drawn a lot of comparisons to, which I know his nickname is Baby T.O., but I know a lot of people have also kind of been saying that, hey, he kind of reminds me of this guy named Calvin Johnson, because Calvin Johnson was huge, and Terrell Owens was 6'3", and Calvin Johnson was a whopping 6'5". So he's somewhere right in the middle of Calvin Johnson and Terrell Owens in terms of size. He obviously has not played, didn't record any stats at TCU, but in an offense where they're going to be airing that thing out, they're going to have a plethora of wide receivers that can plug and play. Plus, they also have a guy in Travis Hunter who's kind of a wild card at receiver. Do they want to play him all day, every snap like they did last year, or do they want to preserve him a little bit because they have more depth, like Cordell Russell, So I think Cordell Russell could be a wide receiver that I don't know if he starts, because I do think my starters, which I talked about LeJohntay Wester a little bit yesterday, I would say it's Wester, it's Horn, it's probably Travis Hunter, and then Omarion Miller's in the mix. Will Shepard's in the mix. They have Terrell Timmons also. So there's like 8 wide receivers that could realistically start for this team, and Russell's one of them. He's huge. He has a combination of speed, strength, and size that a lot of quarterbacks would love, and certainly Shador Sanders will take advantage of, because he likes to throw. He likes to huck the rock. He likes to throw that thing out, air that thing out, and throw it to his guys. And if he has a chance to sort of, I won't say take a risk, because Shador Sanders is very smart in how he throws, but if there's a chance for him to sort of maybe toss one up, then it's okay, because you got the size advantage, you got the strength advantage. It makes life all that much more easier. So that's number 1. Number 2, I think you have to look at another former 4-star, and 4-star transfer, Quincy Wiggins. Now, what do we see from Quincy Wiggins at LSU? Not much. He didn't play much at all. He did get a few snaps here and there, but he's a former top 65 recruit. At one point, he was ranked, I think he was ranked all the way up as a 5-star recruit in the 24/7 Sports Composite rankings. Let me confirm that real quick. But he was just a monster. He comes in at 6'5", 265, and he's someone who, I don't know if he starts, but he's someone who maybe rotates in, or maybe he eventually takes a starting spot where it's like, oh wow, this guy has got it. And he went all the way from, as he was ranked as low as 549th as a recruit, and ended up ranked as high as 48. So he was almost a 5-star, a few spots out. But someone who, Colorado needs physicality. They need guys who are able to sort of have that dog in them, and sort of just be physical. I think last year, a lot of the issues that they had across the defense line was they weren't physical at all. They were constantly pushed off the line. They were constantly bullied. And this year, they obviously have guys like Chidozie Nwanku. They have Samuel O, Deion Hayes. They bring in all these guys that are big, that are experienced, that are strong. And guess what? They are hoping that guys like Quincy Wiggins, who over his career has 5 total tackles, but as a recruit was obviously someone that they thought could really be something special. And so what does this mean for Colorado? Well, for one, if he turns into something special, he obviously is going to live up or could live up to his recruiting ranking, which means they have a first round caliber type of player on their team across the defense line. If you look at his scouting report, he had a second round grade on him for the NFL draft. He said, and this was kind of what they had on him: great height and immense length with tremendous frame potential, long arm and big handed, verified wingspan of 7 feet. So his arms are as long as they get. They said he possesses through the roof physical tools. He was originally a basketball player only, and he's relatively new to football with a development ceiling. So has the size, has the strength, and just needs the development and the opportunity to put it to use. And what better place to do it than for Coach Prime with Warren Sapp helping him out, Sal Sinceri helping him out. He's going to have all these guys that are pushing him to be better, and maybe an opportunity like this at Colorado will go a long way. Okay, my next player that I think could sort of rise to the top in terms of what they bring to the table has got to be a running back. And I talked about a running back yesterday, so we're obviously not going to be. It's not going to be Dallin Hayden, but it is going to be Isaiah Augustave. And you're probably like, what in the world? Why? They already have a couple of running backs here, and they don't need another running back to step up. Well, you say that, but when a guy's as big as Isaiah is, 6'2", 208 pounds, very physical, 5.8 yards per carry last season in Arkansas, and Arkansas running back room that was pretty solid. I know the Arkansas team as a whole wasn't where they were hoping to be, and obviously KJ Jefferson leaves the program. Obviously, a guy like Miles Slusher left the program prior to the season to join Colorado. They had some Jordan Dominic, same thing. They had some key losses, and the team just wasn't what many people over there in Fayetteville were expecting. But there was a lot of promise in Isaiah Augustave. And so realistically, Colorado, I think, is going to rotate running backs more than people expect. I think Dallin Hayden's going to get the nod as the lead back. I think Michael Welch is going to have a role. And I think Isaiah Augustave is going to have a role as well. He's big. They could probably use him to help out in the pass blocking game. They could probably use him in the pass blocking game or in the pass game, excuse me. And he could do a little bit of everything. And so that's what Colorado wants. That's what they need. And then also, it never hurts to have just dogs that you can hand the ball off to. Shedeur Sanders is obviously one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I know a lot of people think that Colorado's not going to run the ball because his dad's the coach and he wants him to be the first overall pick. Well, go do me a favor and look up Savion Wilkerson's stats and what was their final year at Jackson State. So Shedeur's final year in Jackson State. Savion had over 200 carries, excuse me. So if Colorado has an offensive line that could block and a running back or a run game that could be effective, they will use it. I think people just don't understand how bad this offensive line was last year and how bad the run game was because of the offensive line last year. So before we move on, I want to tell you guys about my fourth and final impact transfer, who I think could sort of sneak into the starting lineup and surprise some people. It's one of the Wade twins. It's Keaton Wade, 6'5", 250-pound sophomore out of Tennessee. He played a lot last year for Kentucky. He had 36 total tackles, 1 sack. Now, Colorado's linebacker situation, which I don't know if he's going to be sort of an edge rusher or outside line or a linebacker, wherever he ends up. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of defense alignment that Robert Livingston likes to use. But Keaton Wade is someone who has that SEC experience, kind of played pretty well for the Wildcats. Obviously, didn't play a whole lot in this freshman year. He still played quite a bit, but he's someone who, if they get him going, if he gets on the field and they get him going, you have guys that, because he played a lot. He played in just about every game of the season, played against Florida, played against Georgia, played against Tennessee. He's played against the best of the best, played against Alabama, Louisville. He's played against very good competition. So for him to come to Colorado and sort of provide another talented linebacker, edge rusher, whatever he ends up being, and who could tackle, maybe rush the quarterback. If you think of what Colorado has at pass rushers, they have Deion Hayes, Samuel Okunalola, BJ Green, who had 6 sacks last year. They have Keaton Wade, who's going to get in the mix. They have so much talent on that in that defensive front, where I think it could end up being one of their strengths, honestly. Like, I think receivers a strength, obviously quarterback's a strength, the secondary is a strength, but look out for the defense line. I think those are my 4 guys where it's going to be, I think they have blow up potential. You guys comment below who you think may blow up next season. Obviously, you don't want it to be someone like, say, I don't know, Will Shepard. We know he's going to be good. LeJontay Wester. We know he's going to be good. Pick someone who's a little under the radar, so that way everyone, if they haven't already, can keep an eye out for someone new next season. When we come back, I'm going to be predicting who's going to lead the defense in every statistical category this upcoming season for the Colorado Buffaloes, starting with BJ Green leading the team in sacks. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Go check out. I mean, I know this is a Colorado pod, but so Nuggets fans, cover your ears. Kyrie Irving, 14-0 in winner take all games in elimination games in the playoffs. Go check them out. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day, and joining me and making me one of your favorite podcasts or top podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow. By the way, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all the shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or for free on the Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Okay, let's talk about it. Colorado stat leaders from the 2023 season. Who's going to lead them and what this upcoming season? I think there's a lot of guys who are going to, well, I mean, we know there's going to be a lot of guys that emerge that went on the team last year because they brought in so many new darn players, but that's okay. That's okay. They bring in these players to help the team. They bring in these players to make the roster stronger. So who leads the way? Well, I already teased one already, and I think BJ Green's going to lead the way with sacks. He had 6 last year, was a second team, all Pac-12 type of guy on a team that was bad. And so when I think, and teams knew how good he was. So he had 6 sacks and a forced fumble last year. Colorado has the opportunity to move him all over the defensive front. How does he adjust to being on a better team? How does he adjust to being in a different defense? How does he adjust to a different role? I think he's going to adjust just fine, excuse me. And I think that Coach Prime and company is going to get the most out of him. Obviously, I think he's going to lead the team in sacks. Total tackles or tackles leader. Last year, it was Levante Bentley. He edged out Shiloh Sanders by 2. Had Shiloh Sanders not been ejected from the UCLA game, maybe he edges out Levante. This year, though, and I think you guys would probably agree with me. We'll see. I'm going to go with the new linebacker addition, Nikhil Hill Green, Nikhai Hill, excuse me. Thinking NBA on the mind. Nikhai Hill Green, Charlotte transfer. He's someone who started his career at Michigan, helped them basically contend for a title, if you will, and all of a sudden decided to transfer and at Charlotte, where he popped off last year. His stats last year for the 49ers were he had 70 total tackles, 3 pass deflections, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble. So he comes in, he's experienced, he brings in that leadership, has, I would say, the tools to thrive, 6'2", 230. He has the size, and he may be featured in this defense. He may be given more responsibility than last year's linebackers were, because this unit could be a little bit better. I also think Levante Bentley would be pretty close. So I think Levante Bentley is probably around second. I would say I'm going to go with Nikhai Hill Green first, and then Shiloh Sanders probably third. But again, I don't know if you want a safety being one of your leading tacklers, because that means it could just mean that he's aggressive and he's getting downhill and getting to the ball, or that means that everyone's getting to the second level and he's having to make a lot of plays. So that's a kind of a give or take there. That's up to you guys to interpret. But so we got total tackles, we got sacks. Who's going to lead the team in interceptions? Last year is Travis Hunter and Cameron Silman Craig. They each tied at 3. Trevor Woods had 2, and then Jaquez Robinson had 1 as well. And so who's going to lead the way for Colorado this next season? Well, I honestly think it's going to be Travis Hunter. Like, it's got to be. They have him more, or at least they're moving him all over the field. They want him by the ball more. They want him to be able to make as many plays as possible. And I think him moving all over the field will kind of prevent, say, offenses from being like, okay, Travis is on the left side. All of our players are going to be on the right or over the middle. We're going to have Travis run downfield. We're going to have whoever he's covering sort of on the slot route or the post route where they just run him downfield and get him out of the equation. Travis is going to be in the nitty gritty. He's going to be making plays, and I think he's going to lead the way with interceptions. Last year he had 3. I think he's going to up the ante a little bit. He missed a few games due to injury, so I think if he's healthy, he should be able to sort of have an impact that he had last year, but have an even greater impact. Forced fumbles, I feel like that's a tough stat to project, but I'm going to go with the CEO of the headache gang himself, Shiloh Sanders. Shiloh Sanders is a hard hitter. I think he is more than willing to lay the boom. I think he's more than willing to sacrifice his body. And I think that's why he forces so many fumbles. And I think he will do the same in 2024. You guys comment below who's going to lead the team in sacks, tackles, interceptions, and forced fumbles. Let me know what you think, and we could discuss in the comment section. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the 5 moments that I think were the best moments of the first year of the Deion Sanders era. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, so make sure to like, subscribe, follow. Like I said, appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Let's talk about the 5 best moments of Coach Prime's first season as the head coach at Colorado. So I think for starters, you have to think about sort of the opening win, the momentum that built around the program. Coach Prime, I just spit everywhere. Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes go into a hostile TCU environment. TCU is coming off of a dream season. They make it to the college football playoff. They make it to the championship game. They beat Michigan. It was kind of a blowout, but I feel like the score was closer than the game was itself. And everyone was like, okay, this TCU team's going to throttle Colorado. Colorado was double-digit underdogs on the road. No one really knew what to make of a team that was mostly made up of transfers. And all of a sudden, boom, Coach Prime, Shador, Travis, Dylan Edwards, no longer with the team, but they punched him in the mouth. They stunned college football. They captured the attention of college football fans everywhere. That game was breaking records left and right in terms of people watching the game. That game was breaking records left and right in terms of just overall production. Like Shador threw for 500 yards, Travis Hunter and Dylan Edwards and Jimmy Horn and Xavier Weaver. They all had a huge game. So it was a big game overall. You have to really, I feel like you kind of have to look back fondly of that moment, regardless of whether you're a Colorado fan or not, just because it was the start of like a historic run in terms of coverage. Like that Colorado team was covered like no other team had been covered before. There was just so many people writing about it. There were so many people interested in it. It was just an awesome time to really be covering Colorado stuff at that time. So that's my first one. Second one, this one's a little bit, I guess we'll say repetitive, I get, because we've talked about this before, but the Nebraska game, I think a lot of people, which this is what I was talking about before the TCU game. And so I don't know why people doubted me. And I ended up picking TCU to win, but I thought it'd be close, which I should have just went with my gut and been like, yeah, Colorado's going to win by a touchdown. That was my gut. But I was like, you know what? TCU, more experienced kind of, but they did lose some key players either way. Colorado goes into a hostile Nebraska game week 2. And everyone's like, okay, TCU, they're frauds, but Nebraska's coming. Nebraska's got a new coach. They're going to be a good team in the Big Ten. It's on the road. Colorado they can't do it again, can they? No, for sure they couldn't. For sure they can't, right? Well, they did it again. They did it again in major fashion. They actually blew out the Nebraska Cornhuskers 36-14, and in a game that was never really close. And honestly, it was just one of those where it's like, what is going on here? Because at that point, it was like, how good is this Colorado team? I think they were ranked after that game or after the Colorado State game, which leads me to my next one. A great moment for that Colorado State game, or for that Colorado season, was the Colorado State game. Colorado's not playing that well. Travis Hunter goes down with an injury. They can't stop anything. Those crossing routes absolutely killed Colorado, but they take it to double overtime thanks to a last minute sort of drive by Deion Sanders, who went Tom Brady mode, as he put it. They win the game in overtime because Coach Prime gets ballsy, and he's just Coach Prime was like, you know what? We are going to put the game in the control of our offense. The defense isn't stopping anyone. We just got to do what we got to do. And so I thought that was a really interesting move. They win the game. I thought that was really cool. Then this is where it gets a little more, how do you say it? It gets a little more dicey, if you will. I feel like there was a lot of interesting moments. Um, I think this is just a moment of how Coach Prime was holding people accountable. And this was talking about Cormani McLean, which I mean, hindsight's 2020. Obviously, it didn't work out. But I think one of the best moments of the Colorado season was just getting an insight on how Coach Prime was handling someone like Cormani McLean, who's a five-star talent that just didn't have the work ethic or mentality to be on the field at all times. And he had no fear in publicly blasting him and no fear in saying, you know what, he's not playing because he's not doing what he needs to do. We're not going to play him just because he's a five-star. And I thought that was really interesting to say the least, because it was one of those things where if you're Coach Prime, if you're Colorado, and it's like we get this five-star, obviously we have to play him right away, right? No, that's not the case. Not always the case, and they prove that um, down the stretch. I also want to say this was an interesting sort of moment, but I feel like I'm gonna roll with it a little just because I thought it was cool. Obviously they lost majority of these games, but Shador Sanders best moment breaks he broke the record for most passing yards in the season for a Colorado quarterback. He obviously has shattered a ton of records, or is going to shatter a ton of Colorado records, and he has a chance to lead Colorado to their best season in quite some time. And so I think him breaking those records sort of showed that he's one of the best in the country. You know, I think a lot of people were like, he's an FCS quarterback. He doesn't have what it takes. Oh, it's daddy ball. He's only playing because his dad's the coach. He won't be good when he plays against top teams. And outside of the Oregon game, which I think Colorado would like to erase from their memory altogether, Shador Sanders played pretty well to really good in just about every game he played. If you look at his stats, there's only 2 games where he didn't throw for over 200 yards. Or well, let's see. We'll just go. There's only 2 games realistically where he didn't surpass 220 yards. Washington State game when he was injured, the UCLA game. Oh, there's 3 games. Excuse me, can't do math. UCLA game he had 217. He was against sacked. He got sacked 7 times, and then the Oregon game when he was sacked 7 times again. Coincidence? I think not. The more he was sacked, the worse he did. Shocker. But he just showed that he was a lot better than people were giving him credit for, and I think he kind of helped put this Colorado team on the map in the sense that it went from like a weird experiment to that no one believed in to like, okay, once they get the right pieces, they could be really good. So I think those are the 5 best moments of the first year of the Coach Prime era. You guys comment below what you think were the 5 best moments, and we could discuss in the comment section. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone.